to Real People, Real Life.
Thank you for coming on my podcast. I really appreciate you coming out. I know you guys have been traveling a lot. Flew in from Dallas and drove the 3 hours or 2 hours to San Diego. So thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
It's so worth it.
So Esther, world-class violinist, LA Chargers, DJ, in front of tens of thousands, 50,000 people, getting the crowds pumped up. You're all over YouTube. Fun to watch. Very inspiring. But it didn't start that way.
No, I wish.
You have an interesting story. You started in Colombia. Let's talk about that.
Yes, I am from Monteria, Colombia.
Hmm?
Not everybody knows where it is. It's a small town in the northwest.
Is it near Bucaramanga?
No, it's not close. It's closer to the Caribbean Sea. So it's like a couple of hours from Barranquilla, Cartagena. So I'm more closer to that area.
Okay.
So I grew up there with my whole family. I come from a musical family. My dad is passionate about music, but he never pursued music because he was like, I need to support my family. It's my passion, but I need to work. And so I grew up with like a mentality of like being a musician. It's like a passion, but it's not something you pursue because you're going to be broke.
Very common perception, right?
Yeah.
Be an artist, do music, but become an attorney or something that pays the bills, quote unquote.
Totally. And I think seeing my dad is someone so talented growing up, like I was like 3 years old and I was like literally like singing with him. That was like my favorite hobby. Just watch him make music and sing, but at the same time seeing that like frustration of like, I wish I could do it, but I can't. So I feel like that was like my fuel growing up. Like I was like, you know what? I want to be like my dad, but I actually want to pursue music. And when I turned 7 years old, I remember my dad, we were watching a movie, and it was a beautiful movie of an orphan playing the violin on the streets, supporting her family. It was like 8 kids, and she was just playing on the streets, and that's the way how she was helping her family every day to make money. And it impacted me a lot because I was like in the same mentality of like, oh, you're gonna be broke, but she's making money doing music, and it sounds so beautiful, and it's such a beautiful instrument. I was like, I love the violin. I fell in love with the violin with that movie. And I turned to my dad and I go, Daddy, I want a violin, please.
And he's thinking, oh, when they first start playing that thing, it's horrific.
It's terrible. It sounds horrible.
My sister tried to play the violin and it was a nightmare.
Oh my God. It's everybody. Like they say like, oh, I quit violin after, 2 months because I couldn't keep up with it. The sound was terrible. It's normal. It's part of the process. My dad looked at me and he said, okay, I'll get you a violin. Like a couple of weeks later, he goes to Medellin and he comes back with a violin. I remember it was the happiest day of my life. I was so happy. I didn't think my dad was going to give me the violin, but he shows up with the violin.
And how old were you?
Oh my God. Then I was 6.5. I wasn't like turn 7. It was right before my 7th birthday.
Wow.
And I remember he gave me the violin. He looked at me. He said, okay, I'm going to give you a violin, but you have to make me a promise. I was like, of course, anything. And he goes like, you will never quit. And I said, I promise you, Dad, I will never quit. And I always remember that day. That was the happiest day of my life. My dad gave me the violin, but at the same time, he made me make a promise to him. And he put me in classes. I remember my mom would take me every day after school to conservatory. And it was like a very strict regimen. And I was very frustrated sometimes. I don't want to practice. Being honest, as a kid, you have so many distractions. You want to be outside playing with your friends and everything. And it was always in the back of my head. I'm like, I want to be playing. And I would be practicing and crying. My cousins tell me that. They're like, do you remember when you used to practice the violin and you will be crying in the window watching us and playing the scales?
I promised my dad I won't quit. Oh, I want to go
It's
outside and play.
hilarious. I have forgotten about that. But then when they remind me, I'm like, you guys. It's like, you'll be crying and watching us play. And I was like, oh my God, don't tell me that. But it was so worth it. It was so worth it. Those were like the first memories I had of music and the violin with my father and my family, until there was a point in our lives that, fast forward a couple of years, my dad used to work in politics and was very, very involved in just making things better, in any way possible, but very political.
Right.
Involved. My whole family, we had like a background of being involved in helping the communities, helping like little towns and people just like, kind of like get like a better life. In a good way. And there was a guerrilla at that time that it was a lot of conflict with the government, and there was a lot of things going on. And that affected our family in a major way. We had a lot of family members being kidnapped. Some of them got killed because of properties and because of like differences of thoughts and thinking. And they were just mad that our family was very activist in that aspect. And my dad comes home. I remember that, fast forward a couple of years. I was about 13 years old. My dad comes to the house and he says, we got to leave the country.
Oh, 13 years old.
Yeah. And I'm like, I have my friends here. We were living in Barranquilla at that moment. I was going to Casa de la Cultura. So I had a very like beautiful surrounding of like music around and my family, and I didn't have anybody here in the United States. But my dad comes and he says like, we gotta go. And I'm like, why? And he's like, well, because otherwise I'll get killed like that. I mean, my family was very, very straight up. They were very honest with everything growing up, and were very, very believers in God. And at that moment, we felt that the best decision that God was putting in our hands was the ability of leaving the country. And my dad said, I am going to grab everything you have, and I am going to bring you guys to the United States, and we're going to ask for a political asylum. And we'll start all over as long as we're all together.
And was your family doing well in Colombia?
Yeah, we were middle class. So we were good. We were comfortable. My dad used to work for the ICA, so it was the veterinarian. And so he was, was very well off in that aspect. And then my mom was a stay-home mom. Her purpose was just to make sure that we were just studying and like, that upbringing that was very like nurturing. And
we just had Mother's Day. Mothers are extremely important.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the most important jobs, making sure that stability with the family.
Yes.
So Dad, this key figure in your family and in society, says to his family and a 13-year-old daughter, we're going to leave and we don't have any friends. We don't have a business. We're basically going to plead to the United States government for asylum because of all the violence that was happening. How scary was that for you?
Oh my God. So that was probably the hardest moment of my life. Uncertainty, like you don't know what's going to happen. I don't know the language. I always loved English, but I've never really paid attention to English classes. And I'm like, now I really need it. I'm like, I'm moving to a country. I don't know any English. I regret not paying attention to English classes. I was like, and I am never going to see my family. That's what I was thinking. I'm never going to see my grandpa, my mom, everybody. I was like, what am I going to do? And my dad, and then, as a kid, you always have your things growing up that you cherish, And my dad was like, you're not taking anything. Only take one thing and one luggage. Of course, a violin. That's my one thing in my one luggage.
One bag of luggage and your violin.
Yeah. And at that moment, I was like, I grew up very detached to to anything that it's, anything that's
Materialistic,
material.
yeah.
Because I grew up like attached and then taking it off, taking it off. And like, we kept moving cities. And I never really realized what my dad was moving cities every 2 years until he literally said, "Oh, we got to move." And I was like, oh, it had to do with that. Like he was being threatened in every city. So every two years we would move out. And I just thought it was because, but it was just part of something was building up for years.
Wow.
And we were blessed enough that none of us got killed while being there. And it was a decision that was made at the right time, God's timing. And we moved to this country. And I remember that I was trying to be very positive. And everybody in the family, we were just trying to be positive as long as we have everybody together. But imagine someone placing you in a different country, like we're all immigrants, all people that have come with, their families and everything were placed in the United States. And it's like, okay, figure it out. You don't know the language, you don't know nothing, but let's start all over again. And my mom and my dad had to clean houses. They started from zero, like things my mom never worked, and she's a very hardworking woman. And they were cleaning houses. They did so many things. I remember we used to go play at churches on the weekends. And it was my dad, my two brothers, and I. And we would go play at churches, and they would give us ofrendas. Ofrendas, it's like a gift. And with those gifts, we were able to like get food on the weeks and everything. Like it was that type of like experience that I was grateful to know that there was communities like church and so much support of other people that were willing to help, and angels. I feel like those were angels that got placed in our lives. But I was very sad because I was like, I'm never going to see my grandma. I'm never going to see my grandpa.
All your friends too, completely. The worst with growing up, people would, especially military people, they'd be in your school 1 year, they're gone. But they're still, for the most part, some would go to other countries, but they're moving different areas within the United States. They're born understanding the language. My wife came from Mexico, around 13, 14 years old, and speak any English as well. I don't know that I could learn another language. I've had the hardest time with it. But where did you guys, when you came from Colombia, where did you land in the United States? In Downey.
Yeah. Downey was the city that we arrived first. We had one aunt that had moved a couple of years before because of the same reason. Because then she was like, I'm not going to put up with this. I'm leaving. And, her case wasn't as hard as ours, but it was like she just made the decision right before it got worse. And we got to Downey and we lived with her in one of the rooms. So it was like the five of us living in one room. Yes, it was after me having my own room. It's like, it's good to know that like in life you have, you could be here one day, you could be here. And it's just the mentality and appreciating the things that you have around. Like I was so grateful that my aunt let us stay there and that we were all together. At the end of the day, that was the only thing that mattered to me. When I got to high school, I faced a lot of rejection. I didn't know any English, and believe it or not, there's a lot of racism out there. And I was made fun of when I would try to speak English. It's like, oh, like ha 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 ha, because I didn't know how to pronounce it, And it's two mentalities that you could have. I remember I used to just laugh at myself too, because I was like, you know what? If I don't speak it, I'm never gonna like learn it. And if people are laughing at me, it's probably funny, haha, I'll laugh too. But it kind of like, affects you quite a bit, knowing that there is like still like, kind of like racism out there. And
they assume because you don't speak the language, you're dumb, or you're less. My wife dealt with that. She was a high level math person, all the straight A's when she was in Mexico. She came here, she didn't speak English. They just put her in the remedial classes because she can't be that smart. But just math was easy because it's a universal language, right? So she could do all the math and everything. But she dealt with the same thing. And it's unfortunate. It's kind of a human condition, right? People, when they're uncomfortable with somebody, they'll push their own fears onto them to make themselves feel better.
Totally.
At what point you come here, you don't speak the language. You're sharing this house, everyone in one room,
Yeah.
completely different life, another country. At what point did you start to realize Dad made the right decision?
Oh my God.
Because
You
you
know
had to
what?
think at first, why did you do this to us? And you're too young really to
Yeah.
understand the bigger picture.
Yeah, totally. I feel that a couple of years right after that, because I had resentment also, at the same time, I just did not quite understand why my dad made the decision. But I just I just feel that the fact that I will wake up and I have my dad alive, it was more than anything. I could not imagine my life without him, And he's the fuel of why I do music. And even more when we moved to this country, because seeing how much they sacrifice, cleaning houses and doing anything they could do to pay for my music classes every week. Like that was one of the first things they found. They didn't know English, but they figured out to find a violin teacher for me. Yeah. So I had a violin teacher. Her name was Ingrid Chun, and she used to play for the Philharmonic of Los Angeles. And see, my parents always believed so much that no matter what, they would give me my $50 every week for my 1 hour class of violin. And my dad would take me after work and drive me to Temple City. And I was in high school. I was still in high school. And then I would go, I would take my class, come back. Like seeing those things, I was like, this is a privilege.
True
Like even though,
sacrifice.
yes, it's a privilege to still have my parents alive together and they believe so much in what I am passionate about and what I love, that no matter what is going around in our families and all the odds and the circumstances, and it's not like we had the money to, but it was so much of a sacrifice that until the day of today, that's one of my biggest fuels.
Yeah, they understood what you at the beginning. You said, I never was really into materialistic things.
Yeah.
I, never had enough time in any one place to really accumulate a whole bunch of things. Your parents taught you this by showing you what was important. You're nurturing your education, learning, building on your passion. I'm sure they never complained about giving you the $50. I guarantee you it was hard cleaning houses back in the day. They weren't making a lot of money. That was probably a day's worth of work, to clean a house. But here you go. Keep doing it. You made me a promise.
Yeah. Yes.
The passion starts building with this violin, right? You start, when I watch you play, you're one with this instrument. I love watching musicians, artists, really good artists in general. They always say a really good artist doesn't look like they're trying.
Yeah.
What's a good actor versus a bad actor, right? The bad actor just totally is over exaggerating and trying to really make you believe but the ones that are amazing, you just believe that they're actually that person. The musicians, you watch they go into like a trance.
Yeah.
When I watch you play, I just see it. It's just, I can just watch you. You're like in this trance. The music's flowing through you. The audience is seeing it. What does your dad think being a musician when you go into, I call it a trance just because it's almost out of body, but the passion he sees in it, he must just be overwhelmed, overblown, emotional.
Yeah, I think he's living the dream through my life, and we share that passion together. So it's like, it's literally every time he watches me play and everything, I feel he could see deep inside himself through it. And music, it's such a big part of my life because going through all my hardships was the only way of releasing everything. Like when I would practice, and I'm telling you, I would cry, but I would still keep practicing. When I was happy, it was all in my practice time that I would release my anxiety, my, hard times, angry or anything. It was through music. Creating music, making music, and practicing. So I feel so comfortable because I feel it's a part of my body. And when I perform, it's the way how I release. And that's the way how I feel I could really impact someone's life in a positive way. It's music, it's universal language. And it's like, it's a way that you could connect with people. And that's how I grew up. I grew up connecting with music, connecting with my father, my brothers, and all of us through music. Practicing music together was kind of like worship worship to God. How do you say worshiping?
That's correct.
That's how I say.
Yeah, you got it.
Worshiping to God was kind of like our way of our family coming in together and like asking God for strength. It's like, help us please through these hard times that we just don't have anything besides each other and you. And on the weekends doing that. So, it's a very powerful tool. I believe God gave me music, the violin, and the talent he has given me as a tool for healing, for, strength, and impacting people's life in a certain way, in a positive way always.
When I watch you play, well, I'll step back from that. You're classically trained.
Yes.
People think of the violin, they think, classical music, and it's gorgeous, very emotional. In movie scenes, the violin comes out at the most sad scene, when the person is dying of cancer or something, You took this instrument and created your own sound. And everyone needs to go onto YouTube and check out Esther Anaya and her videos. If you don't know, the sound is unique. It's uplifting. You're a DJ.
Yes.
As well. So you incorporate this violin, electric violin, into your DJ music. I was talking to you yesterday, and by the way, we had a great time at dinner.
Yes.
My wife loves you, keeps talking about you.
I love her too.
You brought the violin to the NFL. That, if somebody came to me before I met you and said, "Oh yeah, violin in the NFL," I said, "What are you, nuts?" Nobody and they're rock and roll. It's, bam, bam, bam. You get out there, get these guys pumped up. Let's go beat the other team. You're in front of 50, 60,000 people, getting these people on their feet with the violin in the NFL. How did that come about?
Oh my God,
And how did you sell yourself on that? Excuse me, Mr. Goodell. I'd like to play the violin for an NFL football team.
Oh my God, you know what? It was always in my dreams to be performing at the SoFi Stadium. I even had a picture in my vision board of the SoFi Stadium when it was just recently built. And I did not know how, but I said, I will be there one day.
I love that.
And I had my prayer list. And, all the best things that had happened to my life, I have worked really hard in secret. And I have prayed a lot for it. And I have not had to chase it, but God has brought it to me when I've been ready for the time. And the Chargers was one of them. I did a song with Snoop Dogg, which is another story.
I heard.
I ended up doing a song with Snoop Dogg. And I took a photo with Snoop Dogg in the studio and I posted on social media. And the Chargers saw me on their social media, on their Explorer page. They hit up our team and asked if I was available to do the draft day. They would like for me to DJ. They had hired Snoop Dogg to do the performance during that time. And it just all was in synchronization. I was like, what? At the SoFi? I was like, yeah, I told you. I was like, one day. I was so excited. You don't understand. I was like, this is a dream. A stadium. I was like, I love stadium. My energy is like stadium. Like, I like to put on a show and everything. I was like, okay, hire some dancers. We put on a show, a really cool show.
And not too many people can do that, To be able to work a stadium, that's another level.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of artists, they'll do rooms of 200, 2,000 is a big room for most artists. Here we go. Get out there and DJ for the stadium. Wow. Love it.
As an artist, you decide, right, what type of audience you want to perform. There's people that feel comfortable and people that do not feel comfortable, do not ever want to be in a stadium. So, you know what I mean? So it's like a different style and also the type of music you make. Every time I'm creating music, I'm like, I imagine a stadium. That's where I would love to perform these songs and perform what I'm doing. But And going back to the story, then I get hired to perform at the Chargers in the draft day, and it went so great that they offered me a DJ residency. And when that came, I cried and I was so grateful. I was like, wow, this is an opportunity I've been waiting for many years of my life. And here we are.
How was that phone call? How was that phone call to your dad?
Oh my God, my dad, like, you know what? He doesn't really cry that much in front of me. He does it behind me. And then when I turn, like his eyes are all dry but red.
Allergies.
He was so happy. He was so happy. My mom too. I remember the first time that I performed, my mom, my aunt, they were all screaming from like the benches. They're like, oh my God, it's, I feel like he feels it's worth it. All the sacrifices, all the things that they did, and that at least someone in the family is carrying on the dream that, I'm not gonna lie, I know each one of my brothers, they wish they would pursue music deep inside, and I could feel it because they love music so much, but they went into engineering, they went into different aspects, and they have families
the practical
now.
track, right? The practical track.
Yeah, absolutely, and then now, like, they see it and they're just so proud. They're like, at least someone is carrying on that Anaya dream in the family.
I love it. You mentioned something that I strongly believe in, and that's your vision board.
Yes.
My wife and I have a vision board. It's right in our hallway. It's like 6 feet across by, 4 feet.
Nice.
Every year we put our goals, and we do spiritual goals, physical goals, everything, professional. But we have to walk by it every single day. We actually changed the name of it 2 years ago and called it our success board.
Nice.
Because we decided we're going to meet 95 to 100% of this every single year. And ever since we started doing that, just like you did, it's a constant daily reminder of promises you made to yourself, promises you made to people that you care about. And it really, if you get it in your head, it becomes reality. And I think, we tell people, you got to do this. You can't let life happen by accident because it's too random.
Yeah.
You got to put in the hard work. You cannot have a victim mentality. You came to America, this girl from Colombia, family basically seeking asylum, getting some racism thrown your way, people assuming because you didn't speak English that, I guarantee you, she won't ever make anything. Yeah, she'll be, working minimum wage jobs the rest of her life. Yeah. You laughed. You said, okay, it hurts. I mean, everyone's human, but no, I'm still going to keep my promise to my dad. I'm going to keep my vision board. I love the SoFi story.
Oh my God.
And the fruition of that came true. I mean, what was it like walking in there? You're just like, okay, this can't be real. Somebody pinch me.
You know what? I walked that place like I belong here. One of the things I've learned in life, it's like, even if I still don't have it, I like to go where I want to be. And before I always get something major, there is a setback of many, many rejection things. People might think like, oh, she's a woman, she's this, pretty, got this. No, it's not. It's even harder, and people have the misconception sometimes of not being too qualified until you prove yourself. And so you have to do double work. Like, you cannot just be good. You have to show extra, like work ethic, knock on doors. Rejection comes, redirection. Yes, it hurts, okay, bye, you can't, we're not gonna have you anymore, or something like, yeah, it hurts so much because you start doubting yourself. When you start doubting yourself, you think you're not good enough. And why am I doing this? And then every time I hit that, like, kind of like that like wall in my life, one thing that have helped me, it's calling my parents. They remind me the reason why I started. And I believe that in life you might not have your parents, you might not have those type of people around you, but you might have a neighbor or someone, a friend, that is not completely family, but those are the family that you could choose. Always be very careful of who you have around. I feel that it's very important because that could help you with moving forward or killing your dreams. Because if I would have someone that would be like, yeah, you're probably not good enough. You know what?
And they're everywhere.
Try going into real estate better. That would probably put me in another, but someone that it's like, no matter what, keep going, push, keep going, keep going. You could do this. You could do this. It's a big change. And I've learned to get rid of those negativity and those people around me that I felt sometimes have not been the best advice givers, because as an artist and as someone that has dreams and someone that has gone through a lot of hardship, we have to understand that life is never going to be easy. And we all say this, you need to suffer. And it's true. You need to suffer to appreciate. That's how life is. You need to suffer to appreciate the good times. And you need to go through suffering so you can know and take value on what are the best things to come, and being able to be an example to other people and share that with other people, because there's a lot of other people that are going through the same situation, and hearing a story, hearing an advice, it might save them from taking the wrong road, the wrong decision at that moment.
Mm-hmm. The more successful that I have gotten in business and personal adventure, the smaller my trusted friend group gets. You learn that the people that are willing to look you in the face and tell you the honest truth, those are the people that are valuable. The setbacks, when looked introspectively, are actually what push you forward.
Yeah.
Business is, one of the things about the entertainment world is it's called show business. Well, people don't put enough emphasis on the business part. Mm-hmm. You have to be able to provide something that is good for business. So a pretty face doesn't just do it. A certain race just doesn't do it. So all these excuses people make, it comes back down to, how much hard work are you going to put into it? What can I do to provide to somebody a good business model? And am I going to let them down? Am I going to keep my promises? Well, you learned how to do that. Your dad taught you that one at a young age. But getting out there and not making excuses, the victim mentality, we all come from a different spot in life. Some have a leg up, some don't have a leg up. Different races, different countries. The great thing about America is it's a land of opportunity. It isn't guaranteed. You still have to do all the work. We try to tell people failure is a function of success. You don't know what success is unless you've experienced the failure, but you only truly fail if you don't keep trying.
Totally.
The hardest thing to do is, when you make a mistake, is to look at yourself. We teach people at my company, before we look outward, look inward. Okay, can we do something better to improve what we do?
Absolutely.
That is exactly what you're doing.
Absolutely, absolutely. I feel life takes so many turns. Let me share a story, actually.
Absolutely.
That happened to me right after high school. So I always thought I was going to go into classical music, right? My life right now is so different than what I ever would have thought, right? You grow up playing violin, you're going to end up at
the Philharmonic.
Exactly. That's everybody's dream, right? I deep inside knew it was not, but I didn't know how. I was like, nobody really is a violinist performing artist in the world. So I knew I had to be accepted into a conservatory for classical music. So after high school, I tried. I went to Colburn School. I got rejected. I applied also to Coastal Long Beach, and we never got a letter, right? we never got a letter. So after that, I went to community college. I was like, I'm not good enough for classical music. What am I gonna do? I guess I'm just gonna have to study something else because I'm not, not gonna make it in that industry, in the classical music. But there were so many things that always directed me to music and brought opportunities to me. I started playing the violin with DJs for bar mitzvahs, private parties, and we're talking about like right after high school. And then, I started meeting people here and there, and I was still going to college. I ended up studying business, right? Fast forward years later, I find a letter about a year and something ago, in a box that my mom had given me from many years that she had saved. And she's like, oh, this is a box of like papers from you, your life, that you should go through them and put away whatever you want to. I found an acceptance letter of a scholarship for Cal State Long Beach in the year that I applied for, and my parents never opened it. But exactly, my life would be so different. And at that time, I thought I was not good enough and I was not qualified, but God's purpose was not for us not to open that letter at that moment. I cried. I remember looking at bed and I was like, I can't believe that I had a scholarship, and I always thought I was not good. But God wanted me to be where I'm at right now, doing the style of music, EDM, like, not being able to perform classical music and orchestra put me into a different path. And I was like, okay, I'm going to take the violin. Like, I want to be like Santana of the violin, like take it into a different perspective and a different style of music and make it acceptable in different genres and get out of the box. And I want kids to be, oh, I play violin. I'm proud of playing violin. Not like I feel like a nerd, so I gave up my violin because everybody was laughing at me. No, I don't want people to feel like that. I want people to think violin is cool.
You've made it so cool that you've got NFL fans out there loving it.
Yes.
That's a crazy story. It's interesting is looking back at all of the things. There's a saying that says, people plan and God laughs.
Yeah.
Because God has a plan for you that you don't even know. And where you're at with this violin music, your art, your creating, it's you. I just, from getting to know you in this short period of time, I would have a very difficult time seeing you in, first chair, playing your violin for a bunch of silver-haired people, I personally love classical music. I know your dog is Mozart. I'm a huge Beethoven fan. But, it's weird to juxtapose those two images. I know you could do it. You were trained to do it. You got a scholarship to do it. Yeah. And somehow it got put away with the Valpak coupon saver.
Totally.
What a different path.
What different path. It's crazy. And that fuels me. So that's why I remember to the letter. I go back to the letter and I say, that letter that I never opened, those situations could still happen.
They will happen.
And a rejection, a door, a major, many, like there has been opportunities that have not happened, and it made me really sad. But I know at the end of the day that the dream that I have, it's going to happen, not the way I want it and the way I have planned it. So I have to pivot. And I have to know, and I have to train myself every time to be even better, because there's space for everybody. But at the same time, there's a space for you to be unique in your best version of yourself. And I feel that every day I could be better. And where you see me today is not the same place you're going to see me. I'm going to be improving, giving, my fans the best version of myself, putting more and more skills into what I do and being able to make an impact. Because when I die, the only thing people are going to remember is the music that stays on my Spotify and my YouTube channel. So those are the things that they are going to be going back to see everything, the music, that's the only thing they're going to remember, right?
But the music is a really interesting medium, isn't it?
Yeah.
We were talking last night. I grew up in the 80s. If I'm working in my yard, I'll put on, Amazon 80s music.
Yeah.
And it's not just music I'm listening to. It's reliving feelings.
Yes.
It's reliving, old first loves, your first little adventure with your buddies, the school dance. They're really impact you emotionally. Yeah. It's not just some boom, boom. Oh, yeah, another song. I like that song. That's a cool song. People are going to do that with your music. They are doing that with your music. They're going to remember the first time they saw you. They're going to remember how they felt. Maybe they were, just think, God, my life's not doing good right now. I'm maybe getting bullied at school or something. They go see you. And, wow, I didn't expect this. Oh, I play the violin. Whoa, I didn't know you can do that with a violin, And then all of a sudden they come home and they start trying some of your stuff, and they will try some of your stuff and maybe get that same inspiration and passion. An exercise that we do at my company every year is I have my team write a better version of themselves at the end of the year. And we always say, if we are the same at the end of the year, we haven't improved. We haven't changed anything. Yeah. There's a saying that says the only difference between you today and 5 years is the people you meet and the things that you learn. If you don't learn anything new and you don't go out and meet anybody new, you're just going to be the same person in 5 years. Yeah. That isn't God's vision for our lives. I mean, we are designed to grow and experience and trip, fall, scrape our knees, get back up. And that puts a smile on God's face. And it fulfills you internally. So, Esther, what's on the horizon for you? What's up next?
Oh my God, so many things. I have been working on a lot of music lately. And one of the things that I have learned is how to find my sound. I released a lot of songs before that have directed me to the sound I'm going to currently. And I'm excited because I'm releasing one of my singles, Control, right before summer. A lot of more music. But this music I'm really proud of because, when you feel that you have made so many, it's like when you're cooking and you made so many bad cakes, or like for you are bad cakes and you're finally, this one I could eat. That's how I feel right now, But all the people, I don't know but that's how I feel. So I'm very proud of it. A lot of collaborations. A lot of touring. I will be in Europe this summer. I will be in Mykonos, Ibiza. So people are going to see a lot of me. And I'm rebranding my YouTube. So I'm putting a lot of sets, a lot of my DJ sets, so people could have more access of my shows in a frequently way. Even if you can't make it to my show, go to my YouTube, put up one of my sets and just vibe to it and enjoy it. I feel one of my goals this year is reactivate my nonprofit, which has been in a stop for last year, but with Asaf Angels and being able to, keep providing those instruments and musical education to kids, it's kind of like my ultimate dream, I would say, creating schools of music around the world. So reactivating that side of me, it's my major goal alongside with the music for this year. So I'm excited for that.
And of course, the Los Angeles Chargers. Well, happiness, true happiness in life is giving back to other people, serving people. I always tell, we do heating and air conditioning. How is that? Well, that just happens what we do, but we are in the relationship management business. We just so happen to fix machines. Yeah. We put smiles on people's face when they're uncomfortable. That gives me joy. You put smiles on people's faces, no matter where they are in life. You've given people the opportunity, the kids, to potentially achieve the satisfaction and joy that you found in music through your nonprofit. Well, Esther, this has been so much fun.
Thank you so much.
I'm so glad Skip introduced us. Yes. Skip, as everyone knows, has been on the podcast a couple of times. And I am looking forward to watching your career blow up even more.
Amen to that.
And how God's going to bless you. And thank you so much for coming out.
Thank you for having me. It's been such a pleasure.
You've been listening to Real People, Real Life. Our passion is to have real conversations with real people who've made it. Real people who've made it, who did it on their own terms. We'll be back soon, but in the meantime, catch us on Twitter or X at RPRL Podcast and on YouTube at Real People, Real Life Podcast.